Alright, so today I'm going to be showing you 4 different dinners that I cooked during the week. So I'm going to be cooking some burritos, sort of a healthy version. We're going to be making some Italian hot dogs, East Coast specialty. We're going to be making some sheet pan chicken with veggies and chimichurri sauce. And we're going to be making some honey mustard marinated chicken and marinated tomatoes and cucumbers. Okay, so first I'm going to do the burritos. So I was inspired by this ripe avocado. Well, it was actually not quite ripe enough, but so I make this sort of often, and all of the things that I normally make, I just kind of wing it, and I use whatever ingredients I happen to have at the moment. Sometimes I make these burritos with ground beef or ground turkey. I was using the Impossible plant-based ground meat because that's what I happen to have on this day. So first we will dice up some onion. Now I'm using a yellow onion, but you can really use whatever you like. So I'm just using, I think, one sort of medium-sized onion. And we'll slice it. And then turn it around and dice the onion. And finish that one up. And then I'll just heat up a pan and throw in a little bit of olive oil. And I'll let the onions start to cook just a bit. Sometimes I don't even use onions because not everyone in my family likes all of the same things. So just gonna push that around a little. Make sure they're kind of evenly spread out, and just to be a little better with time and less dishes, I'm going to throw in 2 packages of the Impossible meat into the same pan with the onions, and we'll break it up with a spatula. So for this meat, I think that it kind of can easily get a little burnt, so I don't turn the heat up too high. And just for a few minutes, I'm going to keep the onions and the meat kind of separated to let them cook on their own. And now I'm just adding whatever flavors and spices. Salt and pepper, paprika, whatever I'm in the mood for. A little bit of turmeric. I usually throw that into everything, and some cumin. And I think I had run out of like peppers, like cayenne or chipotle pepper spice. But if I had it, I would have thrown that in there. I will be adding some diced tomatoes. Sometimes I don't even add the tomatoes because, again, some people that I'm feeding do not like vegetables very much. Okay, so the meat is pretty much cooked and the onions. So I will just add the tomatoes right into the pan. And I'll just use the whole can. And I'm going to add a little bit of water just to kind of make it a little more like saucy. This Impossible meat, I think, can get sort of dry when you cook it, so I like to add a little bit of water. And I'm going to be using these fresh tortillas, and we're going to use the grill pan. Now, I would have preferred to use iceberg lettuce, but of course on this day I only had romaine, which is fine. So I'm just gonna kind of, I would normally slice it up into, you know, really thinly shredded lettuce. So these tortillas are really good. They cook in under a minute. So just let it cook a little on one side and flip it over. I like how it gets the little grill marks on there. And I'm going to add a little bit of cheese while it's still on the pan, just to let it get a little melty. And then I'll just throw in a bunch of the meat. And I like to make a little sauce sometimes too. I think this time I was using yogurt, Greek yogurt, and a little bit of apple cider vinegar, a little bit of lemon. If I had fresh lemons or lime, I could have used that. But again, I'm just working with what I have. And I wanted to add just a little bit of honey and a little bit of spice with this green pepper sauce. I don't know, I always make it different. I just kind of throw in whatever I'm in the mood for. Black pepper. Mix that all up. And here we have the burrito. Sometimes I'll add some beans in there, but again, not everyone likes beans. Throw a little of the yogurt, spicy yogurt sauce on there. And this avocado was not exactly ready to be used, but it wasn't too bad. So I'm just going to throw the avocado right on top, fold it up, cut it in half, and I put some red kidney beans on the side. Alright, so this next dinner, we're going to be making some Italian hot dogs. This is one of my favorite things to make during the week. It's pretty easy. And there's lots of different kind of variations you can do. Just depends on what you prefer. So I always buy these small potatoes, and I cut them up into like quarters, kind of small pieces. And again, I always, kind of go about making all of these things differently. Usually similar, but, whatever I feel like doing that day. So we'll put the diced potatoes into a bowl, and I'm going to put those in the microwave. So I will cover those. I'm going to put a little bit of water, not much, just like a few tablespoons of water into the bowl. Put some plastic wrap on top. And I will put it in the microwave for, I'll say, about 8 minutes. So the potatoes can mostly be cooked in the microwave and then get nice and soft, but not too soggy. And then I will finish them up in the pan so they get that nice kind of fried potato flavor and texture. So now we're going to cut up some green bell pepper. So I'm going to slice the pepper. I think I'm using maybe 1 or 2 peppers. Again, because not everyone likes the vegetables. Slice those up, and then I'm going to cut them in half just to make them a little smaller. But I don't like them to be like chopped. I still want them to be like, kind of like more sliced. Okay, I'll cut the second pepper. And back to the stove top, we'll add just a little bit of oil. Let the oil heat up, and we're going to let the peppers start to cook. Soften those up just a bit. And this time I happened to have a red onion, which maybe would have been better with the burrito, but it'll be good with the hot dog as well. So I'm going to do the same with this. I'm going to slice this onion. I'm not going to dice it into small pieces. For whatever reason, I like it to kind of match the pepper. So I like sliced onions and peppers, like a sausage and pepper sandwich kind of. Alright, now I've got the peppers cooking. I like to start these first because they're kind of a little more tough. So I like to cook those for a little bit longer than the onion. And I'll just add the onion right into the same pan as the peppers. So they can cook together. Just gonna shake them up a bit. I don't like to put too much oil because I don't want them to be oily, but I'm gonna put something. This was one of my favorite tools to mix, to kind of break things up in the pan. It's good for breaking up the onions. Alright, so they look pretty, all mixed together. I'm going to let them cook for a little bit. I want them to be, kind of tender and start to brown just a bit, the peppers. Alright, so the potatoes are done, and I'm going to drain out whatever water is left. Shouldn't be too much, as you see. So the potatoes now should be nice and soft, but I want to make sure I drain out all of the water. I don't want them to be soggy. I just want them to be soft enough to eat. And I'm going to heat up another pan. I'm going to cook the potatoes by themselves in this pan. And again, add just a bit of oil, not too much. And we'll let the oil heat up. And I just moved the peppers and onions over to the other side. So they're still cooking. Okay, now I'm going to add the potatoes to the pan. I want to make sure not to pour any water into the hot oil. Make a big reaction with the oil will be splattering all over and can really get burnt. Okay, so I don't have the burner up too high because I don't want the potatoes to stick to the pan. And I'm going to just make sure they're all spread out evenly, and I'll let them start to get a little bit browned, not too much. Now while they are cooking, I'll add whatever spices. So I like to use this kosher salt, black pepper, and whatever I have. Again, I got a little bit of red pepper flakes, and some Italian seasoning, and this is one of my favorite spices. I like to use it whenever it makes sense. It's dill. And what else do we have? Some smoked paprika. And just kind of stir it up a bit. And we'll let that cook for a few minutes. So as I said, it's basically already cooked. I just want them to get a little browned, but not too much. Okay, so now the last thing to cook is the hot dogs. Beef hot dogs. So I like to kind of slice just a little line down the length of the hot dog. I don't know, it just like looks good and it lets the hot dog kind of expand a little bit. And then we're going to add these to the pan. I removed the onions and peppers from this pan and I put them in a bowl. So now I'm just using the same pan to cook the hot dogs. So I'll just place them all in there. I think some people like to slice up the hot dogs so that we get little like bites of hot dogs. That's, you know, kind of like the same as we did the potatoes. I think sometimes I do that, but most of the time I just leave them whole and put this little slice down the middle. You're waiting for them to get a little bit browned in the pan. And again, I use different like brands and types of rolls, but I never use a soft roll like those soft potato rolls. You have to use like a nice kind of hard roll to hold all of the stuff that you're going to put inside of it. All of the different toppings. So this is like a, I don't know, just like a hoagie roll sort of. And here we have the cooked potatoes and the peppers and onions. And then I usually just put out whatever condiments. Now, I used to make these hot dogs with marinara sauce, which is something you can do, and it's really good. But I've just, you know, gotten a little bit lazy, and I think it still tastes really good to use ketchup or mustard, but the marinara sauce is really good as well. So then we just put the hot dog in the roll and put the potatoes on top. And if you like peppers and onions, throw that on there. And then whatever topping you like. I throw on both ketchup and mustard. So this is my own little version of an Italian hot dog. And I normally don't even put anything on the side because I think that's enough. You kind of have everything right there in the bun. Okay, so here we have our next dinner. This is the sheet pan chicken with veggies and chimichurri sauce. So this again is not exactly how the recipe calls for it to be, but it works. I just used whatever I had. So this is an easy thing to make. You just get like a cookie sheet and you line the cookie sheet with parchment paper, and then we put whatever frozen veggies right on the on the pan. And then we've got our chicken here. I happened to have chicken tenders. The recipe calls for chicken thighs, but I didn't have that, so. And then we just season up the chicken. We added some oil, salt and pepper, some garlic. And then now I put the pan into the oven to let it bake. I put it up to about 425 degrees, and I think I cooked it for about 35 minutes. So while that is cooking in the oven, I'm going to make the chimichurri sauce. Now again, I kind of had to, change the recipe a bit because I didn't have everything that a chimichurri sauce specifically calls for. So right now I'm using the blender, and we're going to add some seasoning. Now I think it called for mint, but I didn't have that. So this here is that Italian seasoning or parsley? I don't know. And there we have some red pepper flakes. And we're going to add some red wine vinegar. I'm going to use some minced garlic. And we're going to add a bit of olive oil. And a little bit of water. And we're going to let the blender mix up that sauce. And the chicken is all cooked. And I'm going to just put the chimichurri sauce right on top of the veggies and the chicken. And that's it. Alright, so the last dinner that I made, I wanted to try one of these recipes from this clean eating book. So this one here is the grilled honey mustard chicken with the marinated tomatoes and cucumbers. So here I have all of the things out. I've got honey, mustard, red wine vinegar, olive oil, and I'm using chicken breast. Now this time I'm going to make the marinade in a plastic bag. So I'm just going to add the oil and some honey and the red wine vinegar, the mustard, and I'll just kind of mix that up right in the bag. And then I will open up the package of chicken. And we're going to put the chicken right into the bag. Yeah, I'm gonna this is sort of like thin chicken breast. I don't need to cut it because it's not too thick. And then we'll make sure it's all coated in there. I'm going to let this chicken sit in the fridge for a few hours. I think I let it sit for maybe 4 hours in there. So I did this during the day, and I was planning to cook it later on that night. So I just kind of put it just like that into the fridge. And I'm going to do the same with the marinated cucumbers and veggies. So I've got a cucumber that I cut up, and a red onion. So I'm going to, I think I just sliced the onion. We've got some tomato. And I just kind of cut, I had aroma tomatoes, so it's kind of a little bit of a different shape. So I think I just kind of like sliced the tomato as well. And we're going to put all of the veggies in a bowl. We're going to make a little marinade. So again, we've got some olive oil. And here is some balsamic vinegar. And some honey. And some spices. We've got salt and pepper. And we'll just mix that up. Pour that on top of the veggies. Mix it up. Make sure all the vegetables are coated with the marinade. And we're going to cover this with plastic wrap as well. And let that sit in the fridge for a few hours. Now this recipe calls for grilling the chicken out on the outdoor grill, but I didn't feel like doing that, so I'm using my grill pan again. So now I'm just seasoning the chicken just a little bit more with salt and pepper, and I'm going to place the chicken right onto the grill pan. Now it would have been nice if I had maybe a larger sized grill pan, but just have to work with whatever you have. And the chicken is a little bit crowded in there. So I'm going to let the chicken breast cook on each side. You can see I like for it to get nice and kind of dark grilled. Flip them over. Make sure it's cooked all the way through. And here it is. I didn't worry too much about plating it very nicely, but it turned out really good. I just sliced up the chicken and put it alongside the vegetables, and it had a lot of flavor. Alright, so I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.